So guess what? Merriam-Webster. So if you want to know how the establishment, what is going on, and what exactly is the establishment, and how there's just a handful of billionaires who fucking run everything. Merriam-Webster, this used to be the definition of vaccine. The definition of vaccine used to be a preparation of killed microorganisms, living attenuated organisms, or living fully virulent organisms that is administered to produce or artificially increase immunity. To produce or increase immunity to a particular disease. They have changed the definition of vaccine. The new definition of vaccine is this: a preparation that is administered as by injection to stimulate the body's immune response against a specific infectious agent or disease, such as an antigenic preparation of a typically inactivated or attenuated pathogenic agent, such as a bacterium or virus, or one of its components or products, such as a protein or toxin. So no more did they talk about immunity. So no more did they even mention it. Artificially increase immunity. Produce or increase immunity to a particular... They're not saying that. Now they're saying it stimulates the body's immune response. So now there's a totally different definition for vaccines. And if you go down to B, a preparation of genetic material, such as a strand of synthesized messenger RNA that is used by the cells of the body to produce an antigenic substance, such as a fragment of virus spike protein. Moderna's coronavirus works by injecting small, so that they've totally changed the definition of what a vaccine is and what it does. So they've totally changed the, and I don't know if was anybody else aware of that? Max, were you aware of that they did that?
I was.
So what would be your response to them doing that?
But if you read, progressive media, you wouldn't know that because they've stopped scrutinizing big pharma and regulatory bodies that have been captured by it. So this is not the only definition that's been changed right in front of our eyes. I mean, the World Health Organization changed the definition of herd immunity to something that can only be achieved through mass vaccination in order to remove natural immunity from the equation, which, as we know from the recent Israeli study out of Tel Aviv University, the largest study of its kind, shows that natural immunity through prior infection of COVID-19 is 27 times more durable than the kind of immunity achieved through naive vaccination. Okay, so they're not following the science. This is purely political, and it's to advance a goal that is being pursued like Captain Ahab pursued the white whale by the World Health Organization's number 3 or number 2 donor. That would be Bill Gates, who just totally dictates their agenda. Then you also have last week, as Jeremy Redfern, who is a Twitter user, like an amateur sleuth, revealed, the NIH, after Fauci was embarrassed over gain-of-function research being carried out by USAID-backed EcoHealth Alliance, Redfern checked the NIH website and saw that they essentially had changed the definition of gain-of-function research to EPPP, which is Enhanced Potential Pandemic Pathogen. So they're basically juking the definition and playing with semantics in order to cover their ass. Again, political considerations are dictating the way the quote-unquote scientific community is presenting the public with the so-called science. So it's not just with the definition of vaccines. But on that point of changing the definition of vaccines, well, we know that because of lockdowns, many children missed their routine vaccination appointments across the world. It interrupted vaccine drives in the global south, but also here in the wealthy global north, many children missed their routine appointments. But what this gaming of definitions of vaccines does is it lowers public confidence in the kind of routine vaccines that children and their take and that which their parents administer, all in the name of the only vaccine that seems to matter anymore, which is the mRNA vaccine, which has failed to deliver on virtually every promise except preventing death and severe illness when you have antibodies during that limited time when it gives it to you. So it's dangerous what the quote unquote, what the scientific establishment or biomedical establishment is doing to public confidence in science.
There is another Merriam-Webster definition change. So it used to be, this is anti-vaxxer is a thing that they bothered to put a definition to. And their definition of anti-vaxxer used to be a person who opposes vaccination or laws that mandate vaccination. First of all, I don't think that makes you an anti-vaxxer if you're against mandates. Professor Richard Wolff was just on here. He's 100% against mandates. He's not against vaccines. Nor am I against vaccines. I'm against vaccine mandates. That doesn't make me anti-vaxxer. But look at the change here. So here it says a person who opposes vaccination or laws that mandate vaccination. That's already a bullshit definition. But look how much more bullshit it got. A person who opposes the use of vaccinations or regulations mandating vaccination. So is that a regulation from my employer? Is that a regulation? Not a law. Because a law is a much bigger thing than a regulation. Because a law, people have to fucking vote on it. And then people have to defend that vote. So that was updated September 29th of this year. That's when they changed it. Again, I don't... let me bring in Max Blumenthal again. Max, go ahead. It's just, to me, it's just a joke at this point.
And to a lot of people, I noticed this a few months ago, the definition was shifting. It wasn't just what I understood a anti-vaxxer to be, which is someone who opposes vaccines, period. And the term itself is a loaded, pejorative, highly politicized term that has been weaponized by big pharma and the institutions it controls since well before the pandemic. But I understood it to be, people who subscribe to the theories presented in the book Dissolving Illusions, which is written by a historian and a board-certified physician who pushed the thesis that diseases like polio were not actually wiped out by vaccines, but were in fact wiped out through improved sanitation standards and general NPIs or non-pharmaceutical interventions in the name of public health. They also make that case on smallpox. I associated it more with people like Del Bigtree, who are critics of big pharma and what vaccines have done to children. And this is very controversial. I mean, these people were the most demonized people. And now it's just the way that the science is being twisted and a leaky vaccine is being presented as a panacea for everything, and it's failing to deliver, has really vindicated a lot of the people who have been there all along, RFK Jr. as well. So these are the people that have been demonized as anti-vaxxers. But now Richard Wolff is going to be called an anti-vaxxer because he's standing up for workers who are opposing mandates. And I don't remember workers like rising up against the MMR vaccine, the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine that is routine for children. I don't remember these massive demonstrations around the world before this started happening. So it's funny how everyone is being called anti-vaxxers. It really reminds me of how so many people are called anti-Semites for opposing Israel's brutalization and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. It's something that I've been called. I've been put on these lists by these right-wing pro-Israel organizations every year. I'm like number 4 anti-Semite in the world behind Ayatollah Khamenei and, some neo-Nazi who went on a shooting spree. I mean, so I'm so used to it. Anti-Semite used to mean a person who hates Jews. Then it became people hated by the right-wing Jewish establishment. It basically has been used to ruin the career of Jeremy Corbyn, and it's targeting so many other politicians. And so the anti-vax label is being used in the same way to try to silence people and shut them up. And it has real consequences. The DHS on 9/11 declared that even though there was no operational terror threat, that those who criticize COVID policy may present a potential terror threat. And that's the anti-vaxxers they're referring to. And they're casting the net so wide through the dictionary definition that Richard Wolff could be defined as a terrorist along with the rest of us, simply for challenging what we see as the abuse of workers, the abuse of science, and this massive propaganda campaign, which is leading us into a very dystopian future.
I want to let you know, on November 6th, we're going to be in Baltimore. November 11th, we're in Tempe, Arizona. November 12th, we're doing Los Angeles and Studio City. November 19th, Los Angeles and Studio City. And then Thanksgiving weekend in Portland, Oregon. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all those tickets.